the amp that launched the British blues invasion. Now, that's the sound that everyone goes on about. That sound. You know, that Les Paul, that burst sound. Got me burst at the ready. I've got a Bluesbreaker. So what I'm going to do is we're going to try and make this sound like Iz did back then. I said right at the beginning I wanted to get to the point where I thought it was talking to me. I think we cracked it. Hello, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Guitaristas. So today we're still downstairs, as you can see, and as promised we're going to look at this, the Marshall Bluesbreaker, the 2x12 combo, the amp that launched the British blues invasion back in 1966. Not this one, of course. This is my one. The one I'm talking about is the one that Jim Marshall gave to Eric Clapton, allegedly to replace the 4x10-inch version that he had, which was a little bit too bulky to get in the boot of his car. I'm sure you know the story, but a brief recap. Eric Clapton, I suppose, launched his career really with John Mayall's Bluesbreakers. And that album, John Mayall and the Bluesbreakers, 1966, they call it the Beano album because Eric Clapton's sitting there reading a copy of the Beano. And when he played his famous, I think it was a 1960 burst, wasn't it? And that was the sound, isn't it? That's the sound that everyone goes on about. That sound, you know, that Les Paul, that burst sound. So what I'm going to do today, what I'm going to try and do today, I've got me burst, of course. Got me burst at the ready. Loving this guitar, incidentally. I've got a Bluesbreaker. So what I'm going to do, or what we're going to do, is we're going to try and make this sound like Iz did back then. By cranking it, really, because that's the story is that he went into the studio and he told the engineer to stand back, put the mics at the other end of the studio, because he was going to crank it really loud to get it to break up. I mean, it's only 30 watts, but it's still incredibly clean, as you'll hear in a minute. So I've never been able to crank this here, you know, enough to get it to break up in that way that you can hear on the album. I've had a listen to that album over the last week, and yeah, it's quite something. It's, you know, it's clean, but it's it's kind of talking to you. So I'm going to try and get that going on today. I'm going to use the aux, obviously, though. I'm going to have to use the aux. I'll show you why, because what we'll do first is we'll turn it on, play it without any attenuation, and then we'll just go from there, really. And then a bit later on in this film, I'm going to go through all the technical specs of this, and we'll do some shots. And we'll talk a little bit more about the history, I suppose, of Marshall and the model numbers and all that, because that's a little bit confusing. This is called the Marshall 1962 Bluesbreaker, but 1962 apparently doesn't even relate to the year. It was made in 1964, or the original one was anyway. This version I've got here is a reissue from 2003, and I'll tell you a little bit more about how I came about that later on as well. First thing we're going to do, though, let's just stop talking, turn it on, and see what it sounds like, and get some noise going. Yeah, here we go. No effects at all today, no compression on the board, no pedals, except for a little bit of Holy Grail reverb, because this amp doesn't have reverb, and reverb just makes everything sound a little bit better, doesn't it? So apart from that, I've got a noise meter down here, so you can see at the moment I'm talking, and it's like 60 odd dBs it's going up to. I'll go quiet, what happens? 30. There you go. Right, now, stop talking, let's get on with it. Yeah, what are we doing? Yeah. All EQs on noon. At the moment, we're starting just with the volumes on 2. I've got the channels jumpered. We'll get into all that later on once we sort of get a bit closer to the sound that we're looking for. Okay. For now, I'm just going to show you it's too loud without attenuation. Here you go. .96 dB already. Really clean, too clean. We need the aux, so I'm going to plumb that in and then let's see what it sounds like. That's killed the volume a lot, hasn't it, already? So, we're going for the Beano sound. Here we go. Let's get some volume going. Bit more. .97 dB. I hope I don't get done by the copyright police. I see any trouble when you do stuff like that. Fingers crossed. Well, fingers crossed it wasn't good enough and no one will recognise it. Ain't bad, is it? We need more sustain, I think. So let's tweak it a little bit and see if we can. That note should really ring. Talk to me. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Right, let's restart. Let's scratchy pot. Not surprising, hasn't been used very much at all. Still only 95 dBs. That's good. Turn that reverb down a little bit. You know, those other strings ringing out, you've got to try and dampen the other strings. That's what you don't realise about great guitarists. They manage to do stuff like that without making all the bum notes that, well, I make anyway. I was going to say you and I make, but some of you probably don't. But I certainly do, you know, do stuff like that. And it's not until you're recording that you notice it. Look. Near the overtone of the open strings. That's why a lot of the old shredders use those. Have you seen those things that you can put over on the first fret? It's like a headband, and it dampens all the strings, so they don't ring open. So if you're doing all that, yeah, that, you know, that. Anyway, I digress. Sounds better, doesn't it? That sounds better. More now. That sounds better, I think, doesn't it? It's difficult to tell until I listened back, but it sounds quite loud, but I think that was still teetering around about 95 dB. So that is loud, though. I mean, my ears are ringing. Well, they were ringing yesterday when I finished, and I'm sure they will be again today. What does it sound like on the middle position? Oh, that's nice. That's what I was looking for. Of course, I don't actually know what pickup position Clapton used on the Beano album, but that's as far as I got. I only started learning that last night, in my defence. I got so far, and I really wish that I'd started learning that a couple of weeks ago, because, I mean, I ran out, or pretty much after that. I got to here. Oh, I can't remember it now. I can't remember it now. But anyway, about there. It goes like that, I think, and then some other stuff, which is also really brilliant, actually. And it's actually just learning that has made me go, oh yeah, actually, he really is good, isn't he? Because that riff there, if only I could remember it, and do it without playing all the other strings, which I can't. I can't remember it, sorry. Anyway, I played it earlier. Have a listen, you know what I mean. Anyway, I think we cracked it. Now let's have a bit of gentle noodling accompanied by some pictures while I tell you a little bit more about the amp. Here it is, big old beast. So this amp, based on the original Marshall JTM 45, which itself was basically a modified Fender Bassman circuit. It's got an open-backed cabinet, as you can see, which really helps with the bass response compared to most closed-back Marshall cabs. And this one's got two 12-inch Celestion G12 greenbacks in it. And some nerdy specs. Let's have a peek through the gap and look at the valves. This model has got 3 ECC83 preamp valves and I believe 2 5881 power valves and a GZ34 valve rectifier. This is a 2003 reissue and it weighs 30 kilograms, 66 pounds, and having just carried it upstairs to take these photos, I can tell you that's no fun. That's great. I didn't actually honestly expect to get that, which is where it's talking to me. I said right at the beginning, I wanted to get to the point where I thought it was talking to me. That's it. And I just turned my dB meter on again just to check, and it was peaking around about 97 dB when the pickups were fully cranked, and there was loads of options here. It's like it's meant to be. Like sort of like it's meant to be. It's like, what the fuck am I talking about? It's like what they say, what they say about Les Pauls. I'm looking forward to having a listen to that back and see if it sounds as good on the recording as that did in the room just now. And my ears aren't, well, at the moment they're not ringing too much. That was bearable. That was totally bearable. As you can see, the Bluesbreaker now is cranked with, volume 1, channel 1 is on 8, and channel 2 is on 5. I tweaked the EQ. That's what they called it. I tweaked the EQ a little bit. I whacked the middle right up to 10. There you go. You can see anyway. Presence is on 5. Bass is on 6. Middle's on 10. Treble's on 5. And obviously you can muck around to suit. But that's, I think that's what I was looking for. It's that there in particular, that they call it bloom or whatever. There you go. Now, I was going to tell you also about how I came to acquire this amp. So let me go and grab something and I'll show you. I'll tell you. So the story behind me getting this Bluesbreaker includes this. This is my custom shop SG. I don't know if they call it a 63 or a 64, but it's a 2006 Art and Historic. That's what they called the custom shop in 2006. SG standard with obviously the Maestro wiggle stick. Heavily faded, this one. You can tell if I show you the back. Now there's a film on the channel. I'll put a link in the description box. So I don't want you disappearing now. Not when we're so close to the end. There's a link in the description box to my SG films. I did 2 films on my SG collection. I think they're called SG Addiction and something else, SG Heaven. I can't remember now. But anyway, I took the pick guard off to show you. You'll be amazed at how much lovely cherry. I mean, that's a bit faded. That's heavily faded. It looks walnut, doesn't it? Anyway, I took the pick guard off, so if you want to have a look at that in a bit, go and do that. Anyway, story is, I used to work in Camden Town in London, up by Camden Lock there. Cool place that, cool place Camden. If you ever come to London, you've got to go and visit Camden, obviously. And it's vibrant. It's a vibrant place. There's a lot going on, and there are some guitar shops. Most notably, there's a big guitar shop. It's called Guitar. It's a big chain in the England. They've got, in Scotland, obviously, sorry. I think they started in Scotland, actually. In the United Kingdom, should I say, Guitar are a seller that I buy from frequently. as you probably know. You've seen the boxes and stuff, haven't you? Amongst all the other sellers in the UK. Anyway, Guitar, I've got a shop in Camden, and I was always in there. Any excuse, go for a wander. I'd be in Guitar, having a look. And one day I wandered in and I saw this, a Bluesbreaker. And it's, you know, it's a scruffy old thing, isn't it? I showed you some shots by now, haven't I? It's a scruffy old thing. It looks the bollocks. And I thought, oh, I'm interested in that. Price tag was quite appealing, being second hand. These are expensive. They're £1,600 new still. And it was, I think it was about half of that. I can't remember specifically, but it was like, it was an interesting enough price tag to want to try it. So I said, oh, I'd like to try that, please. They said, great. What guitar would you like to use? So I went to have a look. I thought, oh, I'll have a look on the wall, see what's there. And this was there. Used. Another used. Bargain. I will say it was a bargain. It was on the wall and I thought, bloody hell, that's a match made in heaven. So can I try that SG, please? And, well, you know the rest because they're both here. I couldn't not buy this and that as well. So I walked out of the shop with this and then they shipped that to me the next day. So that was an expensive day. But look, you know, these are great things to have. These are things that you want in your collection to hang on to. There's a little story as well. I'll always remember the day or the occasion, you know, or the situation that brought these to me. And it's one of those memories I shall cherish. It sounds like, I just, beware. These are, obviously it's a custom shop. These are what they call custom bucker pickups, or whatever they called them in 2006. It's a lovely guitar, this. I think I went into it in more detail in that SG film. But it is a lovely guitar, there's no doubt about that. And it's fucking loud. Fully cranked. Same amp settings as before. What happened there? I was getting overconfident, wasn't I? Anyway, this is what this sounds like. That's what this sounds like. Let's try and do a little bluesy something. It's all blues this week because it's the Bluesbreaker. Here we go. I'm pretty chuffed with what we've achieved this week, to be honest with you. Let's turn that off. It's not ear blisteringly loud, and it sounds pretty good. It's talking to us, isn't it? It's talking to us. I think the difference now is probably an original Sunburst Les Paul And he may have cranked it a little bit more than that. I think, you know, I still like some of those notes to ring a little bit more. I think, well, they're going to on a Les Paul anyway, aren't they? I think they did anyway. Anyway, it was close enough, wasn't it? It was close enough, and it was fun. Well, it's fun messing around with this stuff, because I actually honestly don't get a chance to do that. Because, as I said before, most of the time I'm just banging out the next film, reviewing a guitar or whatever, and that dictates what I can spend time here in the studio doing. When I'm at home, I get a chance to play guitars, but, you know, either unplugged or through me practice amp. So brilliant to give this a run and actually be able to appreciate how fucking good it is. If I was gigging, I'd take that out. And it's the Marshall sound, isn't it? It's the Eric Clapton Bluesbreaker sound. Well, close enough for me anyway. Thanks for joining us. Come back next week and find out what we're up to then. Oh yeah, I do know what it is, but I'm not going to tell you. If you subscribe to the TV channel, you will know by now, you know. And if you haven't and you want to check that out, there's the link. It's 30 days free, and then $5 a month after that, or $50 a year to support this channel and keep it sponsorship free. And that's important, okay? We want to be independent. We want to muck around with stuff that we like, and we want to muck around with without having to bow to the man or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, but also we need to pay for things like amps and guitars. So if you want to support the channel, there's the link. Check it out and find out what we're up to next week. Anyway, wherever you watch, it all counts and it's all appreciated. So thanks for supporting us. Come back next week and let's do it all again. Cheers for now. I look forward to it. Ta-da.